Hey, Rick. When the player meets Monomon, it's as one of the three dreamers, living souls blocking the entrance to the Black Egg Temple. She can be found in her teacher's archive, a structure suspended in a lake of acid, deep in the slimy depths of Fog Canyon, surrounded by the Uma and Uoma, jellyfish-like creatures found nowhere else in Hallownest. Once the player and Quirrell have overcome Umu, King Jelly, they descend further and meet the dreamer herself. Quirrell tells us that Monomon built the archive to store the accumulated knowledge of Hallownest, and eventually even her own sleeping form. He then restores her mask and reassures us that she knows what we're here to do and agrees that it must be done. So, we do our thing. First with a dream nail, then some nail attacks, a bit of focus, and that's that. Another dreamer down, another seal broken. If you're anything like me, you were glad to have no further reason to be in Fog Canyon and probably didn't spare another thought for Monomon herself. It wasn't until I started putting together the full Hollow Knight timeline, part of which will, I promise, be my next video, that I started looking deeper into the teacher. And I'm glad I did, because now I can share this story with you. The story of a bug who became a god. In-game lore establishes her as Monomon the Teacher, a poet, instructor, and researcher. She's important enough that her words, taken from her elegy to Hallownest, are the first the player sees in the entire game, not to mention humble enough to sacrifice herself so that others wouldn't lose their capacity for diverse, independent thought. She must too have been a favorite of the king's, judging by the fact that she's the only dreamer of the three to get her own custom seal, not to mention the amount of effort it would take to build her archives, complete with custom Monomon-shaped adornments. Now these are all admirable traits, no doubt, but a list of traits does not a story tell. Let's see if we can do better. Monomon's story starts at the height of Hallownest's golden age, at the shore of an underground lake in Greenpath, near the Pilgrim's Path. Monomon has invited her king here to show him the site of her next project, the Teacher's Archives, storehouse of the kingdom's knowledge. She tells him that she and her assistant Quirrell have worked out a way to harness the deadly power of the acid blight to function both as a power source and a storage medium. She asks that he help her by constructing a pipeline to transport the caustic liquid from its origin, the area which would become known as Yzma's Grove, to this lake. The king is intrigued and happily commits to the project, even promising to dispatch 2 of his 5 great knights to guard the infrastructure. Some time would pass before they met again, and something in her king's manner told Monomon that this was no friendly visit. She listens, horrified, as the king lays out the facts. His ancient foe, the Radiance, has somehow struck back from the dream realm, unleashing a devastating infection against which no mortal bug can resist. She nods along as he lays out the plan to eternally seal her in a chained, pure vessel, supported by countless void bindings. When the king comes at last to the dreaming seals, Monomon immediately knows what she must do. After all, what good would it be to preserve all this knowledge if no bugs retain the mental ability to understand it? So she agrees, and the king says his goodbyes with an air of relief. As soon as he's gone, Monomon calls for Quirrell. After all, she may have just decided to sacrifice the rest of her life for Hallownest, but she knew it would take time to put the king's plan into action. And Monomon was determined to make use of every second. She and Quirrell had a big problem to solve, protecting both the archive and the sleeper at its core, for eternity if possible. But what creature could last that long against normal mundane threats, much less fight off the infection should the vessel fail? Her eventual solution is a true showcase of her genius. She created a form of life powered by the infection, and imprinted with the overwhelming need to protect Monomon. As the start of her slumber neared, she wrote her elegy for Hallownest. recorded the king's plan and her reasons for sleeping, and finally created the ultimate expression of her new species in Umu, the uncanny god of knowledge. As her last waking act, she enacted one final protection. She entrusted her mask as well as some measure of her mind or willpower to her assistant Quirrell, instructing him to leave Hallownest and await her call. With that, she slept. The black egg was successfully sealed, the Radiance less so. She rapidly overwhelmed her captor and the infection returned, this time overwhelming the bugs of Hallownest in the blink of an eye. Feeling Hallownest's death throes, the king flees and the queen exiles herself. Like the rest of the kingdom, the caverns around the archive quickly fall silent, and untold ages pass. While this period was basically one of stasis for many regions of the former kingdom, life near the archive is thriving. The second wave of infection resulted in an explosion of the new life forms Monomon created. First, the lake cavern filled, and then the jellies spread, eventually transforming the region into the fog canyon we see in-game. Now we're nearly done here, but I want to draw your attention to just one more detail, hidden in plain sight in Fog Canyon: the God Particles. As I explained in my last video, a region's God Particles indicate by their color and shape what higher power reigns there, and tell us by their frequency, size, and motion just how powerful that god's sway is over the area. The bubble particles found in Fog Canyon are seen nowhere else, and are the largest and most vital we can find in the entire game. To what higher power can we attribute this much undying loyalty? Stronger than the White Lady and the shared mind of the Mushroom Tribe? Stronger even than the obsession of the miners of Crystal Peak? All of those jellies, all those simple minds focused only on the protection of their creator, make the answer pretty clear. And that, dear viewer, is the story of Monomon. The story of the bug who became a god.